Okay, your class, we're going to start up with the second half of this video. I left off with the C and G and I ran out of time. What I would suggest is when you practice this, use your pencil because you can, get a little bit of better feel for it without using up all your ink, but it just gives you a chance to kind of practice a little bit. And don't even worry about the thick and thins just to get that shape down. Okay, if you notice, this is the same on the G and the C, okay? So I'm going to start right here, and this is more of a horizontal curve, and then this is more of a vertical curve. See that? So I start out thin, and then the G does, up to that point, it's almost identical. And again, this is where we can start adding in flourishes. Okay, there's the C and the G. So start out thin, thick. Make sure you thin it back up before you get to that thick line. You don't want two thick lines crossing each other if possible. Okay, the next one. The O, there's so many different ways you can do the O. But this one, I'm starting right here. Here's the starting point right here. Let me get down a little bit closer. So the starting point is right here, and you're coming up. Just to make this go a little quicker, I'm not going to actually, well, I guess I could draw it. That's your first stroke, thick, transition, upstroke is thin, and then see how these two curves are parallel? Okay, so you can start right in here. Let's do this one here. Okay, so I'm starting right here, thin, thick, and then finish off parallel and kind of give it a little bit of a flip at the end. The Q, you can do it the same way. Make the O, and then just put this in. See how it starts out thin and ends thin? Okay. Another way to do the Q, I love this Q right here. It looks like a number 2. You start down here, upstroke, and then really come in tight. And then that's a beautiful looking Q. Okay. The T and the F roll, they are virtually identical. You can see where this is starts out thin. This is where you start the stroke right here. And from here to here, it's about straight. So don't give it one of these. It's not that. That's where you have to look at the sample sheet and really analyze the curvature and the shapes of the letters. So this one, I'm coming down, it straightens out right here, and then you get the thin little tail. But notice how it's straight from here to here. And this part is a little tricky. I'm going to get thick right here and then let it get thin on it. So it's thick here, transition, and then right here you want to bear down a little bit. I need to touch that up just a hair. So there's the T. Okay, so here's your first stroke. Bear down. And then above the center to make this F, you're just going to make a little loop here. And then even on this, it's like a little E right there. See how it got thicker right here? Okay. But just remember this part right here from here is about straight. Don't give it one of these right here. Okay, next one. The L and the S. There's a lot of different ways to do the S. I'm going to just do it the way it kind of shows in my handout. Okay, you're going to start your stroke right here. It's almost the same as starting out a C. It's very close to that. Thick. And this is very much like the T. Okay, it's straight from here to here. Loop it around. There's so many variations you can do with this. And then the S, it starts out the same way. I'm going to do another one. I wanted to have some thick right in here, but that's okay too. Do one more here. Thick transition. This wants to be a little more curvature. I don't want it to be straight. That doesn't look too much like an S, but see how there's a little more curve to that right here. It's looking more like that. A little more curve to it. And this is where you might want to stand your pen up, you know, get it off the inside of your thumb and forefinger, get it up straight like this rather than back here. That's something you'll have to practice. Okay, the next one's the BDRP. You can see the similarities. You've all got this bump, and I'm gonna try to show you how to make a pickleless D, a pickleless D. Okay. Let's do the P first, actually. So this is, look at this, is the same stroke as in the T and the F right here. This is virtually the same stroke. So for the P, I'm going to come down, start out thin. And again, this can be flourished out. We'll just stop it right there. Okay, right about in here. So that's your first stroke. That one didn't come out too good. Let me do one more. See how it curls back onto itself right in there? And visualize when you work on these, visualize, try to see, oh, that's part of that shape of an oval. Now the R, basically, you're just going to add, here's the shape that I'm doing off of that P. It's this. The B, you're going to start with this first, just like you do the P, only I don't usually touch mine, but that's up to you. So the B, above the center. And notice how this bump kind of, the fattest part is down here, okay? And you can curl back if you want, okay? The D, okay, a pickleless D. Stop right there. We're going to try to connect these two, but to try to connect them out in space is very difficult. This way, if you're off a little bit, you'll never notice it. Come way down and then up. Okay, on to the next one. The last three, the Z, the E, and the X. You know, we could do a Z that looks more like this. And that's okay to do a Z that way, but this is a little more flourishy, a little more fancy. There it is right here. So I'm starting right here, transition, same thing. So, and notice how this part actually comes up right here. You can actually even put a loop in there if you wanted to. But this curve needs to be taller than this curve. Otherwise, it'll just look like a 3. So the Z is going to have, here's a better example right here. You can see how this curve here is taller than this one. Okay. The E, I do this in 2 strokes. You know, I start right here. And you can put a little loop in there. This needs to be much bigger down on the bottom. And then I come back and put that in. Because when I start here, I can't get that heavy stroke on the upstroke. So I do that in 2 strokes. And you can, hit this one without the loop, but you can put a little loop in there. But this curve needs to be bigger than or smaller than this one right here. The last letter, the X. I start right here and then come back with this. So this one's kind of hard to get a thick right there. So you might have to play around with that a little bit. Okay, now mine's a little bit too wide. Let me do one more here. I'm doing it backwards just to see what it, well, I guess that was the same way. Yeah, I'm doing it backwards. It might be easier to do this stroke first because well, you work out what's easiest for you. For me, it was easier either way. It didn't really make any difference. Okay, that's all the capital letters. I'll probably do another video, probably not this week, but I'll do the numbers. But practice with your pencil. Get it to where you're very comfortable making that curve. And be very conscious of how those curves look, whichever letter it is. Study the examples in that sample page in your handout, this one right here. Study those and look at the proportions of the curvature and the relationships of the rest of it. Just for example, now mine wasn't as good as this is, but with that P and the B and the R, look how big this curve is on the other side of that line. Look how much larger that is. Mine I kind of kept small. I didn't really nail that one. And that's where it's going to be personal preference, but be aware of those curves and look for similarities between the letters. That's why I group them together so that you can practice these in these groups and they kind of relate to one another. Okay, I hope that helps. And we'll see you guys Wednesday.